In the world of real estate noise and get rich gimmicks, Jonathan Stogsdill breaks down the simplest way to start investing, even if you have limited cash or zero experience like he did. You'll learn you'll learn how to one house hack deal. The power of one deal can unlock years of financial freedom and opportunity.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, the Lead Machine coach, founder of the Lead Machine Marketing Group and Mastermind. I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life. So whether you're just starting out or you want to take your business to the next level and your life to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. Well, my friend Jonathan Stogsdill, and did I get that right, Jonathan?
Absolutely. It's exactly
All
right.
right. Cool. He's a real estate investor, educator, and founder of EasyFirstProperty.com. He bought his first duplex at 21 with less than $4,000 out of pocket, proving that you don't need big money or perfect credit to get started. Through his content, courses, and coaching, he helps first-time investors cut through the noise and make their first deal with confidence. And what I really admire about his story and him, not only is he very persistent, because I've been in some mastermind groups with him, and he's really thirsty for knowledge and for making this a reality for not just him but for you. His story from dumpster diving to deal making is a definition of transformation through action, and I love transformation stories, and so I'm looking forward to hearing that. And I also admire how he simplifies real estate for beginners without the fluff. And there's just so much stuff out there, it's hard to cut through it. So, Jonathan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here on today at this time, and welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction there. I really appreciate
You
it.
betcha. You
Glad-
betcha. So, okay, let's start at the beginning. What was the spark that and a discovery in a dumpster lead you into real estate?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's interesting. The dumpster is where it started for me, but the reason that the dumpster diving experience was so powerful was actually something that happened years before. So when I turned like 13 years old, my parents gave me a list of books to read. And just as a challenge to say, hey, get educated, learn different skills, things like that. And surprisingly, at the very bottom of the list was a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
Yeah.
before I stepped foot in the dumpster, and found an amazing book by Robert Kiyosaki, I had noticed that title on the list. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I didn't really know what it was, but I was living in Alaska at the time. And I was frequenting the dumpsters. I loved to go and just find treasure and stuff. And it was just a big hobby of mine. I jump into this dumpster and I find a book called You Can Choose to Be Rich. Actually, it was a course by Robert Kiyosaki. And so I ended up connecting the dots between the list that I was given of books to read and what I had found in the dumpster. And so what ended up happening was I do some research. I end up getting my hands on some kind of summary that tells me the big ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I just go down the rabbit hole like so many other investors of learning the power of asset-based income, of building a business, of acquiring real estate, and all of the things that beginners get sold on, these big ideas that really shape our mind, or reshape, I should say, our mind about wealth creation. So that's really how it started for me. Was I noticed the title, I noticed the author, and then I just started reading. And like so many other people, it's interesting. You go to real estate investor masterminds and seminars and meetup groups, and everyone has read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if they haven't yet, they're about to, because somebody's going to refer it to them, because it's just that powerful of a message. It's that powerful of a book. And so Yeah, that's really where it all started for me, because at the time I was in my junior year of high school. I had a plan to go to college to be a firefighter EMT, and to
Yeah.
essentially pay my way through college and do some business thing. I was kind of on a similar track of being interested in business, but it was that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that really changed my mindset and taught me about the importance of acquiring assets and the difference between the various people in the workforce. You've got people that work for money, then you have people that use debt to create income. And those ideas were just totally revolutionary for me. And so that's what got me on the path. And then years later, here I am as an investor and working full time in the real estate industry.
That's awesome. And it wasn't Sharon Lechter one of the authors of that book?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Now and she's spoken at one of our events. It was called the Think and Grow Rich Summit
Mhm.
in 2013. And she also annotated a book called Outwitting the Devil
Mhm.
by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I highly recommend that and Think and Grow Rich,
Absolutely.
uh, which I think was the inspiration for Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mhm.
Uh, and But anyway, that Outwitting the Devil was written by Napoleon Hill a year after he had written Think and Grow Rich, but it was
Mhm.
his wife forbade him to release it
Mhm.
because of what it would expose with government and education and religion and things like that. That was And so if you haven't read it, especially get the audio book
Mhm. Mhm.
because I know the guy who plays the devil,
Mhm.
and it's just comes to life. It's just
Wow.
amazing. He's got an amazing voice. So a little tangent there. So
Yeah.
once you were inspired, what was your first practical steps? How did you go from learning to actually getting and starting to do some of that? Because we all can get stuck with analysis paralysis and said, well, I got
Mhm.
to learn how to do this. I got to get certified to do this. You know,
Right.
once I get this, then I can do that. And you just got to take a step. So how did
Mhm.
that work for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because shortly after my experience finding that course in the dumpster and reading through it, starting to just get my mind expanded to this new reality, really, just like getting exposed to asset-based income and real estate and everything. I actually had the opportunity to be an intern at multiple real estate investment companies. And so
Oh,
you mentioned listening to audiobooks, you mentioned, getting educated and everything, as well as analysis paralysis. And I want to really encourage folks that there is a place for learning. There is a place for getting educated. In fact, until you've been at least a little bit educated, I don't recommend
yeah,
jumping into getting your first deal, because
yeah,
you have to have a lay of the land and you have to have an idea of what the heck is going on. And so, what I
yeah.
did was I ended up getting introduced to several people that were quite successful in the real estate industry through my school at the time. And I was an intern at a company called Aspen Funds in Kansas City for about a year, and just learning about the real estate note industry and just getting exposure to all of these new ideas and new paradigms. And basically, right out of high school, I met my first mentor, who was an investor who had probably 100 units in downtown Kansas City. And I actually started out as an intern as I was finishing up my senior year, and then I went full time as an intern for House Guys USA over in KCMO. So that's where I started. And but I'd say that the first practical step is getting educated, and the
Hmm.
second part of that, maybe it's even just all together with it, is finding a mentor of some kind, somebody that's done deals before, that's done real estate investing before. That's absolutely integral, because the reality is when you start out, you don't know what you're doing. And there are traps, there's pitfalls, there's things that you will do that can set you back unless you have somebody there to guide you and lead you
Yeah.
the way. And so that's what I did. And that's really served me well in my career, is finding somebody that's 10 or 20 years ahead of me and where I want to go. Uh, and then just trying to stay as close to them as possible. And so I
Hmm.
ended up working for a guy. His name was Cody, and he was my first mentor. So I started out interning, and then that eventually morphed into a sales role. I started working with with folks selling properties with what we call creative finance, which is a big thing in the real estate space these days, selling a lot of properties that way. And what's interesting is as soon as you get on the path and you start taking action towards learning real estate investing, the next step actually appears. The next relationship appears. And so one mentor actually led me to my next mentor and to my next mentor. And all of the while, I'm just collecting experience. I'm learning questions to ask. I'm learning actions to take. And that's really how it all started. So we went from education to starting to take some action and build some relationships with people, build those mentor relationships. And those people gave me the advice to take further steps in the future. So that's kind of how it played out.
So how did you arrive? How long did that take? And how did you went at 21? You were pretty young when you were doing all that learning, which is great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or was it so leading up to that? How did that deal unfold?
Yeah. So basically, what happened was I tried to buy my first house at age 18 when I was in Kansas City working for that first mentor. I was so anxious and so nervous about it. And I actually got a property under contract. I had a creative finance, owner finance transaction that ended up blowing up and didn't work out in the end. But I was very scared after that for a while. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, I didn't buy my first property till I was 21. So I had a couple year period there where I wasn't taking any action and I wasn't doing anything to actively become a true real estate investor, which in my opinion, an investor is someone who actually owns property. There's a lot of content online right now that talks about if you assign contracts for a fee, that's a big thing. We can get into that if you have questions. But if you assign contracts, you're a real estate investor, or it's also called wholesaling. And I would gently disagree with that. I think that until you actually own property, you're not really a real estate investor. And so, anyways, what ended up happening was I was working with this first mentor, tried to take action, tried to get that first deal. It didn't work out. And then I waited years until I finally decided I could wait no longer. And I realized, I'll tell you the big revelation that I had. And it was, if I'm going to pursue anything, whether it's to become an electrician or a contractor or a real estate investor, it's going to be really difficult. It's not going to be easy. And there's going to be mistakes and failures and pain and difficulty, whatever path I choose. And so the moment that I decided to pursue real estate was when I realized that. I said, you know what? If I'm going to go through that pain anyway, I'm going to go through that pain and develop an asset-based income skill set, because none of these other paths offer that. I mean, you could make the argument business, or, there's digital products online, all of those things you can produce income, and you can make the argument that way. But I just mean, for me, I decided I'm going to go through the difficulty to develop the skill set of creating asset-based income, because even if I lose a job, I still have assets that are paying my bills. And so that was the moment that I decided, you know what, I'm going to go all the way. And what I ended up doing was I hired a coach, and I paid a hefty fee to have a real estate coach me through the process. One of my good friends that had been in the business for about 10 years, I believe, at that point, and had done tons of deals. And essentially, he had been encouraging me for years to just get started and to kill the analysis paralysis, which, by the way, the number one way to kill analysis paralysis is just take action, honestly.
Take an action. Yeah.
Take action.
Totally.
But that's how it started for me. Was I came to that realization. I was like, I'm going to go through this difficult process of learning and making mistakes. It might as well be for an asset-based income skill set. And then I hired the coach, and we can get into the details of the deal specifically if you'd like to know.
Yeah. So I like how you not only did you learn, but when it comes time to execute, to implement, having someone who's guiding you, who's done it before, is so helpful. Of course, and I think every coach should have a coach, and I have a coach, and also a mastermind group of peers who are trying to who want to accomplish the same kind of thing is really powerful. especially within the encouragement. Sometimes with a coach, you might have one or two sessions a month or something like that. But
Right.
with a group that meets every week, or something like that, that really helps you with the despair and the discouragement that
Right.
I don't want to pick up the phone, or whatever it
Yeah,
might be. There's all
sure.
these little things that you don't think about. Um, and I was talking with a guest this morning about how doing the difficult thing
Yes.
is the uncomfortable. It was last night. Doing the uncomfortable thing. Successful people do the things uh, that the rest of us don't want to do because they're uncomfortable and
Right.
they're not so hard. But that's what makes us grow, and that's why we write books. That's why we get out there. We join groups. We put ourselves out there. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah. So now you've got a coach, you've got this deal, and you've got a few grand together. And so, how
Yeah.
did that come down?
Yeah, it's funny because actually I borrowed the money to pay the coach. I didn't even have the money. I would have had the money, but I was saving it for the deal. So I ended up
Oh, okay.
borrowing. I borrowed the money and I hired the coach with borrowed money, and end up, starting to take action with him. And what ends up happening is he guides me through the process. I start looking for properties. He teaches me a lot of the things that I actually teach to my subscribers, to my students on my email list, my coaching clients, things like that. And I basically just started executing whatever he told me to do. I just did it. Whatever he told me to do, even if it didn't make sense, I would ask questions maybe and do it kind of scared. But at that point, I said, I have to commit and go all in, even if it's difficult, and just figure it out. And
Yeah.
which, there's a repeat narrative among all successful people, similar to what you were saying before, is it's like they kind of just push through. You know what I mean? And it's not that there's not fear or anxiousness or analysis paralysis. It's successful people actually push past that. And so I was really learning a lot from my coach at the time. And so I'll tell you a little bit about the property if you want. What do you think? Oh, I can't.
Sure. Tell us about the property. Yeah, my wife she doesn't realize, but she's upstairs vacuuming. Can you hear that?
I can't.
Oh, good. Well, that's great. I can hear it. So
Yeah.
yeah, tell us about the property. I saw in your book. I've got the first chapter of your book, I think, and I think it's one or two chapters. And you're standing in front of that property, aren't you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So basically, the first property I found, surprisingly, was on the MLS, which, for people who don't know, that's the multiple listing service. That's what real estate agents list property for sale on. It's considered like the open market. And basically, I was just looking at Zillow one day, and I actually expand my search criteria, or essentially like the radius of where I was looking at property. I find something that's a little bit further out than I had initially wanted to buy, because I was living in one city and wanted a certain, drive to work every day. But I decide to click on this house, this duplex, and it had actually been listed for something like 6 months. And and basically I reach out to my real estate agent. I'm like, can we get in to see this? And we end up being able to view the property. But what was interesting about that deal is the seller is what we call a motivated seller. So the property had been listed for a long time. It hadn't sold. We find out in conversation through our agents that the house had been listed actually off and on for, I think, over a year. But they had 2 other buyers that had come through, made offers, and then the other buyers had requested concessions or repairs to be made by the seller on the property. And the seller was not willing to touch it. They were just done. They were ready to get the thing sold. So I go over to the property, and I'm with my real estate agent. We can only get in to 1 unit of the property. That's the thing, because there was actually a tenant living in the other unit that wouldn't let anybody in. And in fact, he was actually threatening the listing agent to get his gun out whenever the agent was knocking on the door to come show the property. And so I couldn't see unit 2 of the property. I could only see unit 1. So it was kind of 50% sight unseen. But I walked through, and I was like, something in my gut just felt like it was a really good deal. And I end up making an offer. And here's kind of how it went down. So they had the property listed at 93,000. And basically I came in and I offered 99, which sounds counterintuitive. But what I ended up doing was I offered them 99 and I asked them to cover my closing costs. So essentially what happened was they got their price, but I got to bake in the extra 6,000 into my loan. And technically they brought another 5,000 to 6,000 in closing costs. So we netted about the same. And so that was one thing that I did that was really creative. It's not an unheard of thing to do, but it just really worked out in the end. So because as soon as the seller sees the offer 99,000, it's over asking. So we end up getting the property under contract, and essentially the tenant that was living in unit 2 continued to be a problem. He was a pack rat and just very, very difficult. So, and this is something that's really important that I want everybody to understand that's listening, is sometimes you actually have to be willing to do more than what's expected in order to get a deal, right? Because this seller was very, very irritated with the tenant because they were being so difficult. And they kept saying, oh, if you just want to walk away, like, I understand the tenant's not wanting to leave. We're going to have to go through a long eviction process. It's okay. But I knew that there was an opportunity here. And I said, no, I'm going to stick it out. Absolutely. We're going to do whatever it takes to get this deal closed. And that ended up including, once the tenant had moved out, they went and actually pulled the shark bite, the little plumbing thing underneath the sink. They pulled the pipe out so that when we turned the utilities on, the place flooded. So
Oh my God.
the duplex completely floods. It's a whole nightmare. And so I'm over there doing whatever it takes to get the deal done. I'm sweeping water out of the house with a push broom at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, just like trying to take care of business. And so I accredit the deal working out to being willing to do whatever it takes, really, because many other investors probably would have just walked away at that point. But what ends up happening is the property gets cleaned out, and I end up closing on the property. And it took about so we went under contract in November. Yeah, it took about 4 months for us to close the deal,
Wow.
which is longer than most buyers would wait. But I knew that it was going to be a good deal, and I was willing to do whatever it took. So we closed the deal, and then the real work starts. And that's when I have some contractors come in, and I have estimates done, and then we actually start working on the property. I'm working on it myself. I've got some contractors, some people that I'd hired, and basically we get one unit fixed up, and I rent out the one side, and basically the rent from that one side covered the mortgage, and then several $100s above that. So I wasn't paying the mortgage anymore. All of a sudden, the tenant's paying. And then I get started working on the other unit, and I end up moving into that unit myself with a roommate. And so what ends up happening is I'm in a situation where I have one tenant that covers my entire payment and then some. So I guess you could call that, it covers the utilities. And then I have another roommate that's paying an extra $450 a month. It was a kind of in rough shape still, so I gave him a deal. Basically, that money is going straight to my pocket. Or in that case, it was actually paying down the debt, because what I had done is I had bought the property, and then I had several credit cards, 0% interest credit cards that I was using to finance the renovation on the property. And so what ends up happening is we get both units fixed up in the end. And at the end of it, I think I had put in about $45,000 worth of work. So I bought it at 93. I put in about 45. And then I got it to the point where I was going to go to the bank and ask them to refinance it. And so instead of going for the common cash out refinance option that a lot of investors suggest, I end up getting what's called a HELOC, or a home equity line of credit. And what happens is they send out somebody after all the work's done to just look through the property and look at the improvements. And the appraiser was generous, and he told me that the property appraised for $225,000. And so all of a sudden, I'm sitting on 6 figures of equity, and I only bought the property with $3,945.09 out of pocket. And so that experience was just so powerful. And I'll comment there. The reason that it was only $3,945.09 was because of how I negotiated the deal, is because of the financing that I had secured, and because of how I structured everything. And so, which is all stuff that I talk about on my daily email list at easyfirstproperty.com. But that's essentially, that experience was just so amazing. I ended up actually moving out of that house, renting out both sides. And then all of a sudden, I'm cash flowing probably $600 per door on this duplex. And after that, I take all of the debt that I had acquired on my credit cards. I actually put it onto the HELOC. And then I just aggressively used the cash flow to pay down all of the debt. And I had that paid off in about a year. So
Wow.
at the end of the first year, and we'll say the end of the first year and a half, I had a duplex with less than, right around 50% debt, and 2 tenants, and cash flow of probably about $600 a unit, and a $70,000 line of credit that I can use, that I could then use for another 10 years to buy more properties. And so that just changed my life. And I realized, I was like, I'm already so passionate about this. So that's why I started the email list, and I started the online content business here. And that's why I'm just so passionate about teaching people, because the first deal, if you do it right, can change everything. Because that deal doesn't just produce income and put money in my pocket every month, but it also gave me a lever that I can use to get into other deals for a decade to come. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because if you do that first deal right, it really can set you up for success. And so, not that somebody can become quote unquote financially free, which that means something different for every person, but it really can set you up for financial freedom if you know how to acquire the property right, if you know how to buy it right, to finance it right, to get the right kind of debt on it, so that you can then use it to leverage into other opportunities in the future, whether that's real estate or business or whatever other fun income creation activities that you're into.
Right. Well, and plus you can replicate that, rinse and repeat, and do that over and over again once you got the ball rolling. So,
And absolutely.
wow.
I'll respond to that with this. That's one of the things that I talk about extensively on my list, is that you only have to do it once to get at least a little bit of experience, right? But once you've done it once, all you have to do is do exactly what you just did again. So it's so powerful. That was one of the things during that first deal that really changed my mindset about things, was because I realized I just have to do this over and over again. So this one deal gave me a millionaire skill set. All you have to do is that deal, the same deal over and over again, and you're going to be set up quite nicely.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. So once you were hooked, now that you're hooked, what are you doing with that skill now?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really cool, because after I bought that first property, I ended up starting to work for a real estate investor, one of the biggest real estate wholesalers in the East Tennessee market. And basically what I do full time is I talk to sellers on the phone. I talk to motivated sellers. I understand their story. I get information about their situation. And I basically put properties under contract for my company to then sell to other investors, or to fix up the property, flip it themselves, or hold on to it long term. So that first deal was definitely really, really impactful. And at the time, actually, I was working as a mortgage loan officer when I was trying to get that first deal, and I couldn't stand it, because I'm out here working on this house, and I'm like, I love real estate. I can't be doing mortgages. I can't be sitting in a white office with, fluorescent lights blinding me. I've got to be out looking at houses. I've got to be making offers and closing deals. So that's what I do full time now. I'm a closer, so to speak, which basically just means that I talk to people on the phone, and I make deals every single day.
Right. And so you got a full-time job, and then you also have this equity thing going on. Are you replicating that as well?
Absolutely. I'm actually tonight going to be going under contract on another house hack. So basically,
Okay.
that's going to be pretty exciting. Just going to be likely using the HELOC to get into this next deal. I've used it for other deals, and going to be just rinsing and repeating. And basically, I'm just documenting the process, documenting the journey on my email list, and teaching people what I know as we go. So.
Nice. So what should beginners know about the home buying process, and especially with credit concerns? And Dave Ramsey talks about not having any credit,
Right.
and going into debt and things like that. But of course, he loves real estate. But
Absolutely.
but he's got the cash flow to invest in it.
Sure.
Um,
And yeah, well, to that, I'd say, first of all, Dave Ramsey's quite successful, far more
yeah,
successful. So I'm not going to pretend to be smarter than him or
yeah,
anything like that. Um, but something that my second mentor told me was that when it comes to credit, you only use the money that you have. So if you have $100 in your bank account, you just treat your credit card like a debit card. And
right.
that's the mindset to have about it. So you're not borrowing money if it's just the money that you have. And I do want to say that Dave Ramsey's approach to budgeting and to money management is integral. Like, it's absolutely
Yeah,
where everyone must start. But there's actually, I think that there's more that can be accomplished when good debt is introduced into a portfolio or introduced into somebody's life that's going to be intentional with it. Now, we're not talking about borrowing money for vehicles or borrowing money for boats or ATVs or whatever. We're talking about strategic debt acquisition, right? Using debt to buy assets. The only reason that I used debt to buy the previous house was because it was a really good deal. It was a really good opportunity. I had a coach. I had multiple mentors that were in my corner coaching me through exactly how to be very deadly strategic with my approach. And so that's why it makes sense. But to answer your question, what do beginners need to understand about the home buying process? Um, First of all, you don't have to be an expert yourself. You do not have to be an expert yourself. And in the same way that you can use other people's money, like a bank's money, to buy a property, which, by the way, Dave Ramsey does have in his little wealth equation. You know what I mean? It's, you can use
yeah,
debt to buy a property if you do it wisely. Um, Basically, in the same way that you can use debt and use other people's money to buy assets, you can also build relationship with people and use other people's experience to help you buy
mm,
assets. You can use
yeah,
other people's contacts to help you buy assets and things like that. And that comes down to building relationships with a team, which is something that I talk about in the book. Uh, but I think that that's the first thing, because a lot of people can be intimidated thinking, oh, I'm not an investor, I don't know what I'm doing. But there are investors, there are people like realtors, like mortgage lenders that have experience in a very specific area of the home buying
yeah.
process that will
Hmm.
help you, that you can lean on for their experience and their expertise to help you through the process. And then once you get through that first deal, you can look back and now you have some experience to speak from. And so that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing that I would say is that um, it's not an unknown process. It's not something that can't be figured out, particularly if you have a good team that you build of advisors and of professionals. But it's not a completely unknown process that you can't learn. And so it's something that you just take one step at a time, which is why I've oriented my book to be very actionable. So everything in the PDF is referencing, okay, now here's this concept. Now go do this, 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 and this. And it's very specific and strategic in that way.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but it's not an unknown process. It's something that can be learned if you just take it one step at a time. And I think the third thing I would say is the strategy that you choose is really, really important, which is actually
hmm,
probably one of your next questions that we're going to go over is like, how does a beginner get started?
yeah. Well, exactly. That for sure. How did they get started, and what would be the first step?
Mhm.
People are afraid. Like, you've got a full-time job.
Mhm.
You know, you don't know anything about real estate. You heard of this show, but you don't really know where to start. And it's
Mhm.
like, I can use debt to buy property and then I can just keep rolling it like that.
Mhm.
Wow. What are the steps? I mean, you went through it earlier.
Sure.
So what's the first step?
Yeah, I would say that obviously the PDF that you guys can get for subscribing to my email list is going to have a breakdown of the three strategies that anybody can use to buy their first property. The three house hacking strategies, I should say, um,
Yeah.
and it goes into detail of the three different routes that you can go when it comes to house hacking. And so I think that the first step is going to be to get on the email list. You can read through that PDF,
Yeah.
but it's education, and then shortly thereafter is taking action. And so getting pre-approved to buy your first property is the number one step, I would say,
Mm.
because a lot of times people will start shopping for real estate. They'll start shopping for a house hack deal, and they will find out that they can't get the deal to close because they didn't get pre-qualified or pre-approved before starting the shopping process. And so getting pre-approved is really, really important. And that's something that, I talk about a lot in the book PDF there. So um,
And can you use this house hacking uh, approach for buying property?
absolutely. So
Yeah.
it's basically, here's how I would explain it. So what you can do is you can use, it's called an FHA loan.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
many people have heard of that, but few people really understand the power of it. And so what an FHA loan allows you to do is it allows owner occupant borrowers to borrow money to purchase multi-unit property. Okay. So I used an FHA loan. Um, and I bought a duplex, right? The cool part about the FHA loan is they allow you to only put 3.5% down to purchase the property. So if in my case the property was 93,000, I ended up bringing less than $4,000 to the table as my down payment, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's the place that I would start. I would start with just filling out a mortgage application with a lender that then you can figure out how much house can I qualify for, and then you can go with confidence, build relationship with the real estate agent, start looking at houses, and start making offers, because that's really where it all starts, is with the pre-approval letter. So I would suggest starting there.
Uh-huh. So we're getting down to the wire here. With the final reflection, how did real estate not only change your finances but your identity?
Oh, that's a great question. Um,
But I have a zinger for you too. But so go ahead.
yeah, so I'd say that I think it's changed my identity in the sense that I've gone from someone that just wants to be a consumer to one who wants to be a producer. Because as I buy property now, I'm thinking, how do I buy this and also offer one portion of this property or more to someone else to live in? Right. And it's not just how do I buy a house and then have a liability that I'm making payments on every month and got all these
Yeah.
expenses. I'm able to look with a different mindset of having an abundance mindset that's like, how do I create value for other people? And this deal that I'm looking at right now that I'm about to put under contract, likely this evening or tomorrow, it's got a little apartment downstairs that I'm going to fix up and I'm going to rent out to somebody else. And I just think that that's a really different mindset from being just someone who wants to buy a house for themselves. You know what I mean? I want to buy a
Well,
house. Go ahead.
it's a serve first attitude, and I appreciate that. And I think that when you do serve people in that way, with your hands open this way instead of this way,
Yeah,
you're open to that abundance that's out there.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what I want to know about is, where does this focus or maybe obsession with Captain America come?
That's actually hilarious. For the folks that join my email list, you'll see this. It's really interesting. I just really love the character, and I'm a pretty big guy. I stand 6'6" tall, so
Yeah.
I've just been pretty skinny a lot of my life. So you'll see in the email list, I've been writing about my process of also, bulking up and getting really big. And so it's just really
Yeah.
fitting with who that character is and what he represents and everything. But that's kind of something people should know is joining the email list. It's something that it's not just all professional. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of crazy stories. There's a lot of those in there. So unless you're open
Yeah.
to crazy stories, don't get on the list because there's some crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, and I've been on the list since I met him. I met him in a mastermind group, and we were kind of learning some things together. And he you stand out in that group not only because you're tall, but you're not afraid to ask questions and soak up the learning, and it really helps the rest of us in the group.
Mm,
I get value out of it too. So I appreciate that. So
absolutely.
definitely, I'm on his list, and that's why I asked him to be on the show today because I knew he had a great story for you to hear, the listeners, to
Mm,
hear and to say, okay, I can do this too.
mhm.
And so whether you're a coach or you're a healer or you're a small business owner, you certainly can expand your world and get into an asset-based income alongside of what you're already doing, just like what
Absolutely.
Jonathan's doing with his day job. So how can people get on your list and get some more information from you, Jonathan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what you can do is just go to easyfirstproperty.com. You can see it right here, actually,
Uh-huh.
easyfirstproperty.com. Right at the top of the page there, you'll see an opt-in box. I just highly recommend anyone who's even remotely interested in real estate investing and even just in buying your first house. If you're still renting, get into this email list because you're going to start to have some mindset shifts about going from a renter, a consumer to a producer and learning the skills that you need to do that. And so, easyfirstproperty.com. You can get into the list. I'll actually give you the first 2 chapters of my book for free, just so that you can get a little bit of education. I just want to give away some value there. Easyfirstproperty.com. Check it out. Would love to see you on the list. And would love to see your questions and your replies and everything. I respond to every email. So please get on the list. Would love to help you out.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much. Remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan and Jonathan Stogsdill. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.